2,000 years ago, at the far southern edge of the mighty Han Empire, there was a small land called Giao Chi. Its people spoke a language the empire could not understand, wore clothes the empire could not command, and worshipped ancestors whose names the empire had forbidden. The beating of the bronze drum once echoed through the valleys, a rhythm of freedom, until the Han made it a crime to be heard. Under the ruthless rule of Governor Su Ding, the people of Giao Chi were forced to surrender everything, their harvest, their language, even their faith. But from the silence of fear, a spark began to burn. In the misty fields of Me Linh, beside the Hat River, two sisters, Trac and Ni, daughters of noble Lock blood, watched as their land was crushed beneath the empire's boots. When Sac, the husband of Trac, was executed to silence the people's voice, her tears did not fall. That night, beneath the ancestral bronze drum, she swore an oath sealed in blood. If our mountains and rivers still breathe, I will rise, and I will reclaim freedom for my people. Within one moon's turn, that vow became a storm. 65 citadels rose together. Villages became armies, and the sound of the bronze drum roared louder than the thunder of any empire. From elephants crowned in bronze, the two sisters led a nation to victory. But far away in Chang'an, the Emperor Guangwu of Han heard the impossible, that two women had shattered the order of heaven. His fury shook the court. In the year 42, he sent his finest general, Ma Yuan, the conqueror of the seas, to lead a massive army south. What followed would echo for millennia. This is not just a rebellion. This is the first cry of freedom in Vietnamese history, the first drumbeat of defiance. This is the story of the Trung Sisters, the first flame. The night over Giao Chi was heavy, not with rain, but with silence. The kind of silence that smothers the breath of a nation. For decades, the lands of Giao Chi, Cuu Chan, and Nhat Nam had lived beneath the iron shadow of the Han Empire. Every harvest was taxed until the fields turned hollow. Every young man was taken to build fortresses he would never live to see. Every elder bowed their head to foreign soldiers, their language swallowed by fear. The bronze drums, once the heartbeat of the land, were buried in the soil, for even their echo was forbidden. In the fortress of Giao Chi, Governor Su Ding ruled not with justice, but with fear. His soldiers roamed the villages, demanding tribute, tearing down shrines, forcing the people to forget who they were. The people no longer spoke aloud of freedom. They whispered it like a prayer, a dangerous word carried by the wind. But even in the darkest silence, some hearts refused to die. In the village of Me Linh, two young women watched the empire's cruelty unfold. Trac and Ni, daughters of a Lock lord who once served his people with honor. They grew up beneath the weight of injustice, yet their eyes carried something unyielding, like embers beneath ash. That night, as the torches of the Han soldiers burned red against the sky, Trac stood by the Hat River. The reflection of the flames shimmered upon the water, dancing in her eyes, half sorrow, half fire. She said nothing. But in her silence, the storm that would shake an empire was already beginning to rise. The darkness before dawn had begun. In the final days of the year 39 CE, the land of Chu Dian was shrouded in mourning. Sac, lord of Chu Dian, a man of honor, a husband devoted to his people, had dared to speak of freedom. His words reached the ears of Governor Su Ding, who saw in them not courage, but defiance. And so, one cold morning, beneath the banners of the Han Empire, Sac was dragged from his home and condemned as a traitor. No trial, no mercy. Only the echo of a blade falling,
and the silence that followed. When news reached Trac, she did not weep. Her heart burned, not with grief, but with something far greater. That night, she and her sister Trung Nhi rode back to Me Linh, where the ancestral altar awaited, covered in white silk, the color of mourning and a vow. One by one, the Loch Lords gathered beneath the moon, their faces lit by fire, their hands upon the bronze drum of their ancestors. The air trembled with both sorrow and fury.
Trac stepped forward. She raised her hand toward the heavens and declared, "Our husbands have fallen, our fathers are gone, but the spirit of our land still breathes. We will rise. We will rebuild our mountains and rivers. We will reclaim our freedom." And as her voice thundered across the night, the bronze drum behind her began to glow, its ancient carvings shining like stars reborn. The first strike echoed through the valley, deep, fierce, and alive. It was not merely a drumbeat. It was the awakening of a nation. The oath of Me Linh had been sworn. Year 40 of the Common Era. From the small land of Me Linh, a flame rose, and it did not stop. What began as a cry of mourning became the roar of a nation. The oath sworn beneath the bronze drum had become a storm, sweeping through 65 citadels, from Giao Chi to Cuu Chan, from Nhat Nam to Herp Pho. The people rose with whatever they could hold: bamboo spears, stones, plows, and hearts that refused to kneel. Across villages and rivers, the drums thundered again, calling every son and daughter to stand. The Han banners burned. The temples of the ancestors sang again. From the smoke of battle emerged two figures, two sisters clad in bronze and fire, riding war elephants draped in silk and sunlight. Trac led the charge, her calm fury cutting through the noise of war. Trung Nhi rode beside her, her spear glinting like lightning. The women of Loch Viet fought beside the men, and the mountains themselves seemed to echo their cry. For our land, for our ancestors. The Han garrisons fell one by one. The mighty governor Su Ding, whose cruelty had ruled these lands, fled the fortress in terror, leaving behind his banners and his throne. The flame that began in silence now lit every horizon. And when the sisters entered the fortress of Giao Chi, the people filled the air with a single thunderous cry: "Our land is free again!" Above them, the bronze drums roared. The banners of the Trung sisters fluttered in gold and red. Vietnam had risen. The fire of freedom was no longer a dream. It was alive. In the spring of the year 40, the land once bound in chains stood free. For the first time in centuries, Vietnam ruled itself. From the citadel of Me Linh, the two sisters, Trac and Trung Nhi, were crowned rulers of a reborn nation. Beneath banners of gold and red, the people gathered and cheered, shouting the words they had once whispered only in secret: "Our queens, our freedom!" The sisters restored the old ways, the flowing silk dresses of the Loch women, the bronze drums that had been buried, the altars to the ancestors that the empire had forbidden. Once more, the music of the land returned, the laughter of children, the songs of farmers, the rhythm of a nation reborn. Yet freedom, though glorious, came with its trials. The kingdom was young. The fields still bore the scars of war. The armies were brave, but few. The people had heart, but the Han Empire had steel. In the north, news spread like a storm. General Ma Yuan, the conqueror of the seas, was marching south with a great army. In the royal hall of Me Linh, maps covered the wooden table. rivers, mountains, fortresses, each marked with both hope and fear. Trac stood before them in silence. Her eyes reflected the bronze drum beside her, the same drum that had once called the nation to rise. Her voice, when it came, was calm and heavy with destiny. "If heaven grants us 3 more years," she whispered, "we will be ready." The drum trembled softly, as if the land itself was listening. The kingdom of Me Linh had risen, but the storm was coming. The year was 42 of the Common Era. For 2 years, the banner of Me Linh had flown over a free land. But far away in Luoyang, the court of the Eastern Han seethed with fury. Emperor Guangwu of Han, determined to restore his empire's pride, summoned his most seasoned general, the man they called the Conqueror of the Seas, Ma Yuan. Veteran of 100 campaigns, Ma Yuan's name alone sent whispers through the empire. Calm, cold, precise. When he received the emperor's seal, he bowed deeply and said only one thing: "By heaven's will, Giao Chi shall kneel again." And so, from the north, the armies began to move. Tens of thousands of soldiers marched under iron banners. From the mountains came the thunder of boots. From the sea, the roar of 1,000 ships cutting through mist. The empire was coming. Meanwhile, in the south, the Trung Sisters prepared for the storm. At Cuu Chan, they built fortresses of earth and bamboo, raised walls where the river met the hills, and called upon every village to stand. Farmers became warriors, mothers became commanders. The air trembled with the rhythm of drums and the forging of spears. Over the hot river, dark clouds gathered, black as iron, heavy as destiny. On one side, the gleam of Han steel. On the other, the fire of Viet resolve. The storm had come to Giao Chi, and the fate of a nation would be decided in the rain. The year was 43 of the Common Era. Cuu Chan. The skies had turned to iron and the earth to mud. As the storm raged, the battlefield became a sea of rain, thunder, and blood. Across the roaring winds, the drums of Me Linh thundered one last time. Upon their elephants, the 2 sisters led the charge. Trac, calm and unyielding. Nhat, fierce as fire and lightning. "For the land, for our ancestors," they cried, as bronze clashed with steel. The war elephants trampled through the storm, their armor shining under flashes of lightning. But the Han army was vast, endless like the tide. Step by step, the forces of Viet were pushed back toward the hot river. The rain fell harder. The mud swallowed men and hope alike. Amidst the storm, Nhat turned to her sister and asked softly, "If we lose, what then?" Trac looked toward the river, her eyes unwavering. "Win or lose," she said, "we shall never bow." A flash of lightning split the sky. Together, they rode toward the river's edge, hands clasped tight, eyes ablaze. Behind them, the bronze drums fell silent. The thunder roared. The river swallowed their silhouettes. The hot river ran red that night. Beneath its waves sank the drums, the banners, the final heartbeat of a kingdom. But their spirit, unyielding, eternal, became the blood that flows in the veins of Vietnam. After the storm, silence fell upon the land. The Han general Ma Yuan claimed victory. He built a bronze pillar at the border, marking the empire's reach. But while he claimed the soil, he could never conquer the hearts. In the minds of the people, the Trung sisters did not die. They became the wind that carried the drums, the thunder that answered injustice. Across generations, their names echoed, in the villages of Me Linh, Hat Mon, and Dong Yan. Bronze drums rang again where they once stood. Every spring, the people gathered, women in white ao dai riding elephants, children beating small drums, the sky filled with banners of red and gold. The scent of incense rose like mist from the temples, curling around the statues of the two sisters, faces calm, eyes proud, hands still clasped together. The drums of Me Linh no longer called to war, but to remembrance. They sang not of loss, but of courage. And as the sunlight touched the golden statues, it seemed to whisper, "No flame ever truly dies, so long as someone remembers. For memory itself is a kind of victory."